Welcome to everyone that is tuned into UBCESS, University Biology, Chemistry, Environmental Science Students podcast. I am your host, Rashi Sutherland. The title of today's podcast is The Vaccines Are Here. The focus of the podcast is to give an overview of COVID-19 as well as to educate the public about vaccination and vaccines and what it is all about. The guests for today are Everton Gregg, President of NCUSSA, which is the Northern Caribbean University Science Students Association, along with two students from the Department of Biology, Chemistry, and Environmental Sciences, Philippa Cummins and Jessery Osborne. Could each of our guests tell us briefly why they chose the sciences as their major?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Basically, science is like the key to every single thing, every aspect in life. It's really science. And ever since I've been probably a toddler, ever since I've been in primary school, I've always fascinated about science itself. Research is something specifically that I love, something that I want to get into, because there are so many things about the world that we don't know, so many need for research. The whole fact that we have COVID going on right now is a call for research. So that is like my main reason. Science is just the key to evolution. It's the key to improving every single standard.
Nice. Agree?
Okay, just to agree with what Everton says, science really covers a vast aspect of life. And personally, why I chose the sciences, I've always wanted to be a medical doctor. Even getting older, I'm now realizing that there are many faculties, many areas to medicine itself. And I just want to contribute life in that aspect. I do believe that our temple, our body is a temple and it's a gift from God. And if I can be in the position or at least have a platform to contribute to not only my health, but the health of others, I think that is one of the highest calling there is.
Wow. And Philippa?
Yeah, so I'm also in science because I want to go into the medical field as well, because I want to go into surgery to get more specific, because what I was amazed with was the human body and how it was designed, and as a religious person, of course, I believe that God designed the human body, and there was so much. It's so intricate, to be honest, and even up to this day, we don't understand every single thing that is going on within our bodies. And to be able to go into a profession where I am able to kind of help someone who probably back in the day would have died because of something so simple, so learning about the human body and being able to manipulate certain things to make people healthy, it's really sounds nice to me. So yeah.
So we can just say science is the best major out there. I'm joking. All majors matter.
I will agree to that.
All majors matters. Well, Jamaica confirmed their first case of COVID-19 March 10th, 2020, which makes this 1 year that the virus is now in the country. As many are aware, Jamaica received their vaccine for COVID-19 on Monday, March 11, 2021. India was generous to give to Jamaica 50,000 doses of AstraZeneca. COVID-19 is an illness caused by a virus which causes respiratory issues. The new coronavirus outbreak was originated in where? Anybody?
I think it was in the UK.
No, somebody else.
No, it was in Wuhan, China, I should believe.
Yes, that's my girl, Jessery. It was originated in China. Different people have different reaction to the virus. In March 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 outbreak as a... Somebody? as a pandemic. The virus can spread from person to person through close contact with an infectious person, contact with droplets of an infected person through coughs, sneeze, touching objects or surfaces that have droplets of the infected person. Then when you touch your face, that is how you're able to contract the virus. Now I'm going to ask each of our guests to identify a safety precaution to protect oneself against the virus, starting with Filippo.
Okay, I'm gonna go straight off the bat with the first one that everyone knows, and that is to wear your masks because, well, it's preventing your droplets from escaping, and it's also preventing someone else's droplets from coming onto you. So it's covering your nose and your mouth. Yeah.
Everton.
I'm gonna go with washing the hands, not just using sanitizer, but actually washing the hands. Many persons will use sanitizers, but the truth is we do touch surfaces constantly. So chances are we need to wash our hands constantly. Like not just wash your hands and just be like, all right, everything is all right. No, like actually wash your hands more than once.
Right, and I heard that you're supposed to sing the ABC song while you're washing your hands, which I think is about 20-30 seconds, and that's a good wash. Jessary?
All right, we know this one very well, to stay 6 feet apart. So even if you're in a public space, if you're interacting with someone, stay 6 feet apart to prevent particles from lodging on your body's surface.
Right, well, you heard it first with our guest telling us the three main safety precaution of keeping yourself safe from coronavirus. So now we're gonna start off with the meat of the matter. Everton, could you explain to us briefly what is considered a vaccine? And guys, this is a discussion. If you have something to say that the other person didn't say, you can say it as well. Everton?
All right, so basically vaccines can be considered as like it's a method of boosting the body's immune system. So it's really putting in something into the body which allows it to produce antibodies or antibodies that will work against the disease. So it's not really like a cure per se, but it's something that helps to boost the immune system. And you'll find that based on the type of vaccine, the definition for vaccine is kind of extensive, all right? But basically, you're just introducing something into the body which helps to boost the body's immune system. That is really the basis of it, the basic definition that you can get for it. The vaccine basically boosts the immune system. So when you think of a vaccine, just think of something that's allowing the body itself to work against the disease in case you come across it.
All right. I understand. Anybody else have anything to say about what is a vaccine?
Yes, just to add to that, what we need to bear in mind, as much as vaccines create immunity, we should be aware that vaccines, in the formulation of vaccines, it's the causative agent of a disease or virus that is used to be injected in the body to actually prevent us from catching the disease itself. So as Everton rightly said, it helps our system to create antibodies. So for example, with the COVID vaccine, it's the COVID agents that are actually used to synthesize and to make up the vaccine itself.
That's so true, because what I know about the vaccine is that it is basically a sample of the virus, I'm not sure if I'm correct, that is placed into the vaccine. But moving on, Philippa, what is the purpose of a vaccine?
Okay, so I think Everton already basically covered it when he said what the vaccines do, because the purpose of a vaccine straight off the bat is to make your body immune, give a certain level of immunity to a certain type of pathogen. So when you get injected or you take a vaccine orally or however method, your body starts to fight against these pathogens, right? And while it's fighting and doing what it needs to do, and the different white blood cells are um, either engulfing them or whatnot, the cells also take, like, I want to say record, yeah, they record the quote unquote data that they use to get rid of the pathogen. So another time when you come across the same pathogen, your body's able, like, and ready to face the pathogen right on before you actually get sick. So the vaccine is just like another measure to protect yourself, to give you a better immunity against it, I want to say. But it's not a cure, more just immunity. Yeah.
Right. Anyone else has anything to say? If not, we're going to move on to Jessaree's question, which is, do you have to be sick to take a vaccine?
No, not at all. I mean, the proverb actually says it's better to have prevention than cure, or prevention is better than cure, rather. So no, it's always good to prepare oneself. So if we can be immune to it before we actually get the virus itself, then that would be a plus. So you don't have to be ill to be vaccinated.
Right. That's so true. Because if you look at it from where babies were getting vaccines for different viruses just to protect us from not getting it. So question to Everton is, what will happen if they're not vaccinated with certain vaccines to protect them against the viruses that are happening?
All right, so firstly, if you don't get vaccinated, your chances of contracting the disease or contracting a disease, rather, it increases. So you're at a higher risk of actually getting the disease if you are not vaccinated. So since the vaccine is what actually helps to boost the body to fight against the disease, if you're not vaccinated, then chances are your body is pretty much new to the disease. It has no form of resistance. It has no form of antibodies. It cannot do anything to protect you against it. So you're at a greater chance of getting ill, a greater chance of being affected, and a greater chance of affecting others around you.
Right. That is true. So basically, if you don't get the vaccine, you are going to get sick. You're prone to get sick. So for Jessaree, your question is, why do you think so many people are afraid of the vaccines? Specifically, why are we so scared of the COVID-19 vaccines?
I mean, to be honest with you, we can safely say the world has never seen this before. And it's a case where when we were babes and we were vaccinated, we still have never experienced a pandemic, or parents or grandparents would have never seen anything of this magnitude. So taking a vaccine didn't seem detrimental at the time. But experiencing this where this virus is very fatal, and because it came upon us so suddenly, a lot of us believe that there is a huge conspiracy behind this breakout. So why is it that there's a breakout and then suddenly I'm supposed to be willing to accept a vaccine, thinking that, okay, it will allow my body to be immune? It's just human fear. And people will put up a resistance because of lack of knowledge and lack of solid information. So what I do believe is, if I'm not even want to say other countries, let me narrow it down to specifically Jamaica. If our government officials somewhat give the people a level of assurance that this is okay, it won't hurt you, it won't do any further damage, but it is a contributing factor to get back life to its original state, then give the people a level of assurance so that they will be receptive of this vaccine, as opposed to being so afraid.
Right. Everton, your view on it?
All right. I think one of the major reasons persons are afraid of it is due to how quickly the vaccines were developed. Many persons question it. Many persons are like, it's too fast. They're doing it too quickly. There's no test on anything like that. Technically, yes, the vaccines were developed at a rather fast paced. However, that was due to the necessity of it. It was important. It was a need for it. So they had to really develop one ASAP as soon as possible. But at the same time, it still takes some time to perfectly understand the negative effects of it. So while all of the negative effects will not be known right now, I think that is probably the one of the top reasons as to why persons are actually afraid of it, because of how quickly it was developed and because the negative effects of it is not fully understood. Like normally, if you look back at history, vaccines take years to develop. And even after years, they find out that, well, then something will happen, this and this can happen, you can get cancer, whatever. That is probably one of the reasons why persons are so afraid of it, because none of that is known right now. It's like something developed in like a year, more or less, and it's still being developed right now as we speak. But persons are still doing tests on them. They're still trying to understand everything that they need to know about it. But at the same time, it's something that they had to develop as soon as possible because it was a need for it. There was a need for it. It's a pandemic. It's something affecting the world globally. It is something that basically everyone is at risk. Everyone is at risk of getting the disease. So there was a need for developing it at a very fast rate.
I agree with Everton 100%. It did not even occur to me that, yes, that is one of the factors because it was developed so quickly. I agree with that so much, Everton.
Same. Filippo?
Yeah, I definitely, I think the main thing was the time in which it was created, because as Everton said, the time it took to create other vaccines and the amount of trials that they had to go through and even end up finding that so many people had reactions to them. I mean, even the COVID vaccine now, people are reacting to it, but that's because it's a small percentage, but it's because of people's personal probably allergic reactions or something towards the vaccine. But like even with the whole thing about vaccines genuinely, there's a whole anti-vax movement kind of thing. I'm guessing everyone is aware of it, where like parents wouldn't want to get their kids vaccinated with the simple like MMR vaccine, like simple things to prevent something as simple as whooping cough. Children are dying from because parents are worried because there was this whole thing about vaccines causing stuff like autism. So I think it's the same kind of trend. And now with COVID, even the people who were pro-vaccine are still wary just because of the time. And like it literally happened so quickly. I was genuinely shocked, to be honest. And it's right here, like no, and everyone's like, wow, it's here and it's real, and yeah, people are worried.
Listen, for me, it's just that, as Everton said, it's just the vaccine came in and it's so deadly and infectious that we had to move swiftly to get the vaccine. I know that it's here so quick. It's just mind-blowing how science is so rapid and how it's so important, because right now science is what is going to keep us alive through this pandemic. So my question is, what do you have to say to the people out there who are afraid to take the vaccine currently? Everton.
I was hoping you did not call on me first. All right. Firstly, you have to bear in mind, if you do get the virus, if you do get COVID, how likely, or let me rephrase, how severe will it affect you? Because COVID really affects persons who have other illnesses more than other persons. So let's say a person with asthma, A person with asthma would be affected tremendously, more than someone who is, let's say, normal, or someone who is healthier. Now, taking the vaccine will actually reduce the risk of you just going out there in the public and just getting the virus and possibly dying, right? The vaccine I think this vaccine is really an mRNA vaccine, so it's not like the full vaccine that you're getting. It's not the full blown vaccine that you're the full blown disease that you're getting. So I think persons should take the vaccine. I think they should, at least. It's a precautionary measure so that the virus isn't, so that you're protected against the virus, so that the virus doesn't spread any more rapidly. Like, it's a way of just protecting not just yourself but others. So regardless of the fear that people face, the fear that people feel, I believe persons should take into consideration the benefits of taking the vaccine. So it's not just about yourself, it's about your family, it's about people around the country, people around the world in general. Like, I think persons need to know more about it rather than just fearing it. You just hear about the vaccine and you just fear the vaccine. No. I think you should actually read up on it, know about it, and that may actually reduce the fear that people feel.
All right. That's so true. Jessary?
Just to piggyback on what Everton said, you look at social media and you hear conversations, and persons are anticipating, people really want their lives back. What I can say to those who are fearful, think about all that you have lost, your loved ones have lost, and those around the world have lost financially, as it relates to not being as productive as you would want to be. A lot of things were at a standstill and still is at a standstill because we're facing this unusual situation. So think about the greater good, and that should overpower your fear. So take the vaccine so that we can continue living and developing our world and moving forward instead of being this stagnant.
All right. Totally agree. Filippo?
Okay. So personally speaking, right this moment, with this first batch, well, quote unquote first batch, I wouldn't take the vaccine right now. But if people are willing, then I say, like, kudos to them, because they're providing like good data, for when more of the vaccine is being produced. But it's because I weighed the quote unquote did some risk analysis in my head, and I don't have underlying conditions to say, like, okay, I'm going to make myself like go to the forefront to get the vaccine. If I have to take it, like, for school reasons or whatever reasons, then yeah, I would. But if it's a point where, like, right now I have the choice, I'd hold back a little until probably later. But taking the vaccine is quote unquote like a good idea because it provides herd immunity. That's why you don't really hear people dying from things like TB or measles or smallpox anymore, because of herd immunity. And it's a good idea to take the vaccine. So if people are out there and weighing the benefits, because one of your loved ones might have an underlying condition and you don't want to get them really ill and stuff like that. So if you want to take, make sure you do your research first, of course. And if you don't want to take it, make sure that it's not because of following like a social media trend where people are saying, yeah, the vaccine will do this and whatnot. Make sure you do your own research and decide whether or not it's for you.
All right. We're down to our last question, which will wrap up everything. And it's what's your view on how do you feel about countries making it mandatory for the public to take the vaccine? And this is for starting with Jessary.
This, as I said to you before, with the unusual situation, that's why persons are so hostile to it. But we should be honest. Even when we were at the primary school level, high school level, we had to be vaccinated and we had to produce our immunization card. Even attending the Northern Carolina University, we have to present our immunization card that we are vaccinated against some viruses / diseases. So with this situation, I am always one that supports freedom of choice and freedom of speech. But with this situation at hand, I can just imagine other government officials across the world wanting to nip this thing in control. So I think this would be the only time that I say it is okay that they're making it mandatory, just so things can be back on track. I think though what they should implement in this whole mandatory situation, give people some time. It is a must, but don't force persons to take it immediately. If persons want to see how it reacts in other persons' bodies, give them that opportunity before shoving it down their throats. But if it has to be mandatory for things to get back on track, I say go for it.
Right. Philippa?
All right, so I'm gonna disagree and say I don't think it should be mandatory, as in you probably can't work here if you don't get vaccinated. You can't shop here if you don't get vaccinated. You can't travel here if you don't get. I wouldn't agree with it, more so because something like, okay, I actually say the opposite. Something like this with the COVID vaccine. I actually think this one should actually like be more of a choice than the other, like the previous vaccines. This one for sure, it should definitely be more of a choice. I could understand like implementing like the importance of it like regularly and updating the public and the citizens of its high importance, but to make it mandatory, I would have to disagree, because I mean, other than it being mandatory, some people will react very negatively towards the vaccine. So in cases like that, probably do individual tests. I mean, that'll probably take a lot of time and stuff, but if it were to be mandatory, I'd say what should happen is individual tests on the patients themselves and to see how their body would react with the vaccine should be done first, because there are people who are taking the vaccine and reacting like very very bad to it, and you don't want that happening, because I mean it's your body, and I don't want to implement the government saying like, hey, yes, you have to take this. No, I wouldn't support that.
I get what you're saying, Philippa. I don't know if Madam Host would allow me to just say this quickly. I do get what you're saying, Philippa, and there are aspects of what you just mentioned that I agree with myself. But you stated something where you're saying persons should be tested individually to see how their bodies will react. But on a science basis, though, we both know that you won't get that answer or result if the vaccine isn't legit injected in them. They still have to come in contact with a level of vaccination before we can even know the answer. And that's why a lot of countries are doing double shots, where they're doing a booster test first instead of just dosing these patients at once. So at the end of the day, guys, personally, if you asked me this even 3 weeks ago, I would have said, no, I don't think this vaccine should be mandatory. Oh no. But as days go by and you see what it is doing to our country, a couple of days ago we had 732 new cases. Something has to give, because if this isn't fixed immediately, we'll continue and we'll spiral out of control health-wise.
Everton?
All right. Firstly, I have to say I agree with both Jaysari and Philippa. Um, like I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think it should be mandatory. Firstly, I'm gonna say this. I don't think it should be mandatory. I do believe persons should have at least an opinion or a decision, a choice to make. All right. Um, at the same time, many persons will try to stay away from it. So they'll probably give excuses as to why they should not take it, or they'll do everything possible to not take it. But at the same time, it's something that's gonna be needed. Like it has to start somewhere. So I think it should be mandatory for maybe some persons. And let me say, when I say for some doctors or nurses who are interacting with patients on a constant basis, so like every single day they're interacting with persons. Some persons may be symptomatic, some may be asymptomatic, but at the same time, they're the ones on the front line. All right, they're the ones on the front line. They're the ones facing persons every single day. At the same time, it should not be mandatory, especially when the percentage is, when it is not like a high number. You should at least have the option to be like, all right, you know what, maybe I want to wait a few more weeks or a few more months to find out if there will be a different vaccine, something that is more effective, something that is better. I do believe some persons should have that option. So it probably should not be mandatory for every single person, but for like persons who are on the front line, persons who absolutely need to get it, then maybe yeah, it should be mandatory.
Right. Anyone else has anything else to say before we go wrap up?
I just want to say, firstly, persons should take the necessary precautions. We mentioned them earlier. Do take the necessary precautions. Don't do anything rash. Like I've seen where persons are literally attending parties and that kind of stuff. Please don't. Please stay away from large crowds. Protect yourself. Do what you have to do. If you don't protect yourself, then basically you're like killing off everyone else. That is pretty much what you're doing. So you gotta make sure that you take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of everyone else.
Yeah, and something I have to agree with is don't be ignorant. Do your research. Get all the information that you need to get before coming to a decision about anything, because a lot of people, they hear COVID and they.
You were saying, Filippo?
That was yeah, I was advocating not to be ignorant about the whole thing, because a lot of people are they're still going out in crowded areas, still having parties and stuff. So with the idea that the virus isn't real or something, so saying don't be ignorant, do your research, come to your decisions on your own, and take the lives of others into consideration as well.
Jessere?
What I would say is to persons, help yourself in a way where you have an alkaline diet, where you have a lot of fruits, so you help your immune system in the process of wearing your mask. Just don't depend on your mask, your shields, or your sanitizers to protect you, or social distancing. Eat healthily so that your body can naturally resist whatever comes its way.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Obsessed Podcast. It was a great discussion about COVID-19 and vaccines with our guests Everton Gregg, Jessere Osborne, and Philippa Cummins. I'm your host, Rashi Sutherland. Until next time.